Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tarot with Titania reading of the week for July 29th to August 5th, I believe, 2022. You're very welcome. I'm glad to see you. I hope you're well. It's been very hot where I am, and I understand it's very hot in other places. So wherever you are, I hope you're staying cool, staying happy, staying focused on all the good that is blessing your life in this moment. And with that, let's get into our reading for this week. I invite you to close your eyes, take 3 nice deep breaths. And just envision a tree root coming down out of the base of your spine, anchoring you deeply into this present moment, knowing that Mother Earth is holding you beautifully, grounding you, so that any excess energy or anything that no longer serves can easily pass down through that tree root into Mother Earth and become compost for your new good growth. Creator, this is your daughter Titania, and I am here doing the reading of the week for July 29th to August 5th, 2022. My intention is to be a clear channel for the information we most need to receive right now, and to provide that in this recording clearly, succinctly, allowing us all to get what it is that we most need at this time for our better expression of our highest and best aspect of ourselves. I call upon my higher self and the higher selves of all those listening now and in the future to be present and facilitate this exchange and ensure that it happens in the highest and best way possible, and that we cover everything that is in our collective heart and mind at this time. Thank you, Overlighting Angel, for being here and ensuring that this is all good. I'd also like to invite the 4 archangels to come and hold the 4 directions around us. Across time and space, wherever you are held in this embrace of light, of love, of healing, of transformation, of peace, of wisdom, of profound distinction. I want to thank Raphael for holding the east, Michael for holding the south, Gabriel for holding the west, and Uriel for holding the north. Thank you for coming, for being here with us and holding us in a good way. Anything that doesn't match the frequencies of love and light that we have called in is welcome to go now. Let's get going, shall we? Okay. So what do we need to know this week? What would be most helpful for our edification, as my friend likes to say, for our expansion, for our good, for our satisfaction, our pleasure, our enjoyment, our wisdom, our distinctions. Wherever you are, whatever's going on in your life, you're not alone. We're all together. We're all doing this crazy life journey together. And those of us who are in a good place are holding good energy for those of us who are maybe in a not so good place. So I just want you to know that wherever you are and whatever you are about, you are held in a web of love and light. Isn't that a good thing to know? Okay, here we are. Creator, what is it that we most need to know this week so that we can rise and be all that we need to be for our personal and collective good? Okay. A little wonky today. Okay. Definitely wonky. Sorry about that. Alrighty. Recent past. It's not so much, it's interesting because the distinction hasn't been so much about it being recent past, but it's some aspect of ourselves from our past that's important now and in the future. Some distinction, some awareness, some part of us that's important now to carry forth. And so we have the card of protection, the 10 of Pentacles. I always think of this card as the card of legacy. It's the card of what are we leaving behind us? What are we contributing to life? What is our gift? How are we adding to the greater web of life, in service to more life, in service to more love? This card has come up many times over the past few years. It's funny how some cards come up more often than others, depending on how the energy is flowing. But this card here, it's the card of you think about those ancestral homes in Europe where they're passed down. It's like a caretaking stewardship sort of energy where, it's passed down usually from father to son, and each generation leaves their mark and does what they do, and some of them are good at it, some of it are not. So it's kind of that energy of legacy, of continuity, of our ancestors who came before us had wishes and dreams and hopes for their own lives, but also for their future progeny, for those who were going to come later. They thought about us. It's kind of weird to think that they thought about us, and even though we weren't around, there was this desire to create a line. And so this card also relates to the ancestors. It relates to our grandmothers and grandfathers, those who came before us, those who laid the foundation that allowed us to be here now. And what a gift. Thank you to all of those brilliant souls who were there before us and who formed us through their lives, their experiences. Their genetics live on in us, and just the science of epigenetics is teaching us we don't have to have the same genes as those who came before. We don't have to switch them on. It all depends on many factors, but there's kind of that interesting idea of that continuity and that connection to those who came before. So that, I think, is what the energy is this week, is sort of this understanding that we are part of something bigger. We are part of a legacy of life that has come forth, well, since the first humans, I would imagine. I mean, we're all descendant, apparently, from if Adam and Eve is a story, that we're all descended from that, or something like it. We are all descended from our ancestors. We all come from someplace. We all have that in common. We all had people who thought about those who would come after. So this energy is continuing into our present, into our future. It's something for us to connect to, and even if you're somebody who was adopted and or don't have connection to your family, for that connection or feeling of knowingness of those who came before, you're still the product of a line. You're still the product of all those who came before you. You still belong. You're still part of a thread of life. So just remember that you're part of a family, and even however toxic and dysfunctional and whatever, they weren't all that way. There were people in that line who were good-hearted and lived well and had good intention for their own lives and their families' lives. And that energy kind of comes down through the line. So just maybe a reframe on that, and a holding of that good energy, of that good life. Okay. I'll probably come back to it again. It's pretty strong. Here we go to the present. The card of oppression. We have 2 10s so far. 10s are the beginning of the next cycle. They're 1. Oppression. It's the carrying of that which isn't ours. The burden of that which isn't ours. This sort of heaviness, this weightiness of, and possibly it's the story of where we come from that we're carrying that no longer serves us. And that's okay. That's okay to get to a point where you realize, I don't need to carry this anymore. This is not mine to carry. It might even be a tangible thing. It's so interesting to think people had bigger houses, they had more stuff, and every generation would pass that along, and before you know it, you got lots of stuff. And if your family line is dwindling or getting smaller, well, you might be inheriting stuff from other lines, and so you wind up with a lot of stuff, and that can feel like a burden because there's that attachment, that familial attachment to that stuff. And that, as I said, it can be the physical manifest stuff, it can be the emotional, psychological, mental stuff that we inherit. We don't have to carry that anymore. We can let it go. We're living in a time where we can choose what we want to hold on to, and we can let the rest go. Understanding that this is the timeline, the time in the line that our families thought about. It can be what we want it to be going forward. We're at that point. So in our present, if you're carrying burdens that don't belong to you, whatever they may be, thought forms, beliefs, systems, again, material things, and it's not serving your good, and it feels heavy and dark, maybe it's time to lighten your load and reconsider what you have in your space. Because when we carry a lot of what isn't ours, it takes up a lot of our energy and our bandwidth. And then we don't have that for ourselves, for our own creativity, our own expression, our own passion. That's important. And I'm not talking about just throwing everything else, the baby out with the bathwater. I want you to be really intentional about this and really be guided by the broader, wiser part of you. Some of us are carriers of legacy. Some of us are those who feel good about carrying on a legacy and holding that tradition. And if you're one of those, brilliant. That's awesome. And some of us are it's interesting because there's all these people who are buying castles in Europe and they're fixing them up, and it's fascinating because you think, oh gosh, what a lot of work. And yet they're passionate and loving it, learning a lot. I mean, we all have a different journey. So anyway, blah, 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 all that to say, in our present right here, right now for this week, there's this energy of burden. Just noticing it in your life, distinguishing it, and then deciding, what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with that burden? How are you going to lighten your load so you have more of your energy and life force for your own happiest and best expression? In the near future, that's kind of fun. Okay, we have the Prince of Hearts. And the Prince of Hearts likes to ride around and wave his heart around, and he's a very social, outgoing individual who really enjoys people, really enjoys connecting. Knights in my deck are princes, so it's that energy of movement, of shifting, of changing. And so it's this heart out there, this let's just see what happens. Let's put ourselves out there and see what happens. That's the energy of the near future. It's sort of this, let's try this love thing out. Let's see what it's really about. How do I be love? How do I be that expression of goodness and connection and appreciation and seeing the good in others and drawing it forth by my good attention to it? That's the energy of the near future, is this moving into this time of, lightening the load and realizing that we are here as unique individuals. Yes, descended from a line of family, but we get to choose right here, right now. Who do we get to be? How do we get to be? How are we going to connect with life? What are we bringing to life? And how do we evoke the highest and best in each other? I've talked about this before, this idea of setting an intention. I personally love to set the intention to see, affirm, and evoke the highest and best in everyone that I meet, including myself, so that my focus and my energy is going to the good, drawing it out from others, drawing it out from myself, seeing it and adding to it. And that's a simple intention that one can set as one moves about one's day that can just transform how we move in life, how we are being in life, how we're relating to others. But this is very much, this whole momentum that we're part of, that humanity is part of, is moving towards more love, towards more acceptance, more regard and support and encouragement. And that's really what this card is all about. Change on the level of the heart, but intentional change in a good way, informed by all that came before. We know what we want because we're clear about what we don't want, right? So, the foundation card for this week, why we're having the reading, is the energy of change on the levels of ideas and action. So it's kind of funny because we've just been talking about letting go of things that aren't ours, taking new action, being different, looking for a way to bring more love into the world through us. We are the channels for light and love. So how do we do that? You want more love in the world? Well, it starts with you. It starts with me. It starts with us. We have to be the clearing for the good that we want to see in the world. That's our work. And this card is about that change on the level of the mind, that change on the level of activity. How are you doing life? And it's the energy of air, the air sign, and it feels really dynamic. So there's a lot of change going on, change on the level of the heart, change on the level of the mind and the action. So understanding that there's this sort of dynamic quality happening right now. And it's interesting because we have representation from each of the four elements here. We have the earth, we have the fire, we have the water, and we have air. So all four elements are represented this week, which will be very interesting to see how that it's almost very full. The energy feels very full, like it's all It's all present. It's all there. And again, this energy of change, of what came before, what brought us to this point, what's guided us to our distinctions, our awarenesses, our knowledge, and freeing us to move in new ways, in new directions, in good ways, for the highest and greatest good. We are cooperative components with the good that is life. So how are you going to be that? So I think that's pretty clear. How about we pull the card to grow on from this? Yeah, change. Change based on the distinctions that come of what we know, what came before. Family lines, connection to what was, connection to what will be. You know, the other end of that legacy card is the future and holding space for the future in a good way. You know, there's that idea of considering 7 generations ahead. I believe the Jewish tradition has that, and the First Nations, many First Nations traditions. I mean, I don't know all of them clearly, but you know, I know that's part of some of the traditions on the planet have really this powerful awareness of the future. And our current culture is so temporal. It's like so in this moment, but not in a good way. It's more about what can I get out of it? How do I make my own experience good without regard for the future, without regard for the impacts on future generations? And our decisions and our actions are very different when we take that into consideration. When we don't want to, you know, then we wouldn't want to be polluting the planet, the soil, the water, the air, because we wouldn't want to do that to our children or our grandchildren or our great-grandchildren. So I'm looking forward to there being more of a return to that state of awareness, to that bringing that presence of consciousness into the present moment in a very good and intentional way, in a loving way, in an expansive way, not as in a limitation, but as in a parameter that needs to be considered for the good of all of us and good of future us. Okay. What is our card to grow on this week, Creator? What is it that we most need to know? What would be most supportive of our good to carry with us as we go forth this week? To remember, as we circulate in the world, for our good and the good of all those around us and this beautiful planet. We have the Emperor, very stable. And the Emperor is all about vision. It's about seeing out into the world. And you know, it's not so much, it's awareness. It's like this energy of awareness. And then when we're aware, we take a different kind of action than if we're not aware. But if you see the Emperor, he's on this very wide throne, and he sits at the base of this mountain, and the rivers of the collective consciousness go by his feet. So there's this very grounded essence to this card, this sort of being really where you are and observing life, taking it in, but not necessarily letting that rock your presence, your groundedness, just observing. And there's a lot happening astrologically right now. Once again, I'm not an astrologer, I can't speak to that, but Pam Gregory is fantastic. And this is a very dynamic time, astrologically speaking, and so it can feel very disruptive that there's just energetically, you might be feeling a little bit discombobulated. Just being aware of that, it can be helpful, knowing that that kind of stuff is going on. And so you can choose to be the observer. You can choose to take a calm space and just regard the world, not reacting, just observing and taking it in. And then you can choose how you'll respond to life rather than reacting. So the energy of the Emperor is our card to grow on. It's this very grounded, centered, present energy, seeing clearly, seeing wisely, taking in whatever is coming your way, not holding on to any of it necessarily very tightly, just observing. So that's perhaps how we need to be this week, is this energy of groundedness to the best of our ability, staying as grounded and centered as possible, observing life and taking it in. It's information, but you don't need to react or respond to it. Take the time you need before you respond. And do it from that good place, that good grounded place. So there we are, the Emperor. Cameras. I'll get them to work properly someday. Okay, so with that, I invite you to close your eyes. Let's wrap up this reading with some intention setting. Nice deep breath, coming back to the home, that beautiful body of yours, which is you in this life, the iteration, the expression of your uniqueness in this current go-around on this merry-go-round called life. Loving and appreciating your beautiful body, loving and appreciating this amazing time to be alive. However discombobulating and upside down and all around it is a time of great possibility and opportunity. A time for us to rise, to become more, to expand, to distinguish our roles as co-creators with the forces of life. That's where we are right here, right now. Breathing into that deep well-being that is within all of us. A connection to source, to the broader, wiser part of us. Pulling more of that into our field here, into the density of our human expression. Allowing it to inform us and express ourselves wisely and well in the world. Helping us to see truly and well, to know where we come from, and to choose wisely where we are going. Remembering we are part of a line. We are a continuity of life, and there will be others after us, and how do we add to their good life experience and expression? How do we transform the world now for the betterment of those who will come later? Using our energy and our goodwill and good ways. Holding ourselves and others in a beautiful, understanding, compassionate, and kind way. Creator, this is your daughter Titania. I want to thank you for the opportunity to do this reading once again this week. I ask that you be with all of us as we emerge back into the world from our time of quietness. As we take the opportunity to realize that we are the product of those who came before, and we will be adding unto those who will come later. Help us to live that wisely and well, and make powerful and helpful distinctions, to live in good ways for ourselves and for all those around us and for those who will come. Thank you for the support, for the continued guidance, for the opportunity of being here now. I'm so grateful to all those who surround us, who walk with us from the other side, all our grandmothers and grandfathers, our ancestors, those who love us, who care for us and want us to thrive. Thank you for being part of our experience. And thank you to the angels and the guardians and the guides and those who love us and walk with us in their way. Thank you for supporting us, for encouraging us, for holding us in good ways, for bringing us the cooperative encounters, the people, the opportunities, the resources we need to continue to thrive and expand and grow in good ways. Thank you for all of the blessings in our lives. Thank you, Creator, for our lives. Help us to make good use of these lives. The reading is at an end. Thank you for being here, for being you, for all your good work on your own behalf and on behalf of humanity at large. Thank you, Mother Earth. The reading is at an end. I look forward to seeing you next week. And just so you know, next week I will be on the road, so things will look a little different. I'm not sure I'll be doing full readings like we do usually. Just depend on how much bandwidth I have to send signals back out to you. So look for that next Friday, different location. Could be fun. In the meantime, much love and light. We'll see you again soon. Bye for now.